Do you think that the destination of these weapons were meant for Nigeria, or this is just a transit route?
Well, for the volume of arms that have been seized so far, the pump-action rifles are the very favorite weapons for and easy to handle. And people like to keep it as part of furniture these days. A lot of people like to own one.
I was actually going to ask you, because when you say Turkey, I thought, we have some, because Turkey, there are several reports about Turkey supporting some groups in this country about certain things. Then, remember when Turkey, they had that coup scare, they asked Nigeria to close certain schools. Nigeria said no, they were not going to close that. So have we had a good relationship with Turkey? Or is Turkey trying to say, okay, if you didn't do this for us, we would then support this? Have you heard of that conspiracy theory?
Well, one would think so at first. But when you look at the geostrategic location of Turkey, it's partly in Europe and partly in the East. And when you look at the volume of arms that were released, actually, at the collapse of the Soviet Union, there is volumes, millions of arms were released, and some of that are being stored in this area. So Turkey becomes a favorite transit port. It depends also on the policy of the Turkish government and its export and import.
Can the Nigerian government, for instance, say, Turkey, this has come in from your country 3 times, and then engage them diplomatically and say that this must stop?
So it is time to call the Turkish authorities to order on it.
Then, when I did ask, look, why this much in 2017? And then you have those who will say, look, we've had several elections. Remember, there were elections that, is it a tanker rammed into INEC office? We didn't have container load of seizure coming into the country. They've threatened that elections wouldn't hold in this country several times. We didn't have this capacity or amount of seizure. And then there are those who will tell you, another conspiracy theory, that look at all of those attacks different groups have faced in this country. When herdsmen attack them, they say, how do they get their weapons? Nobody's arrested or said anything about that. And then those who feel armless or who feel helpless may want to help themselves. Then you have different groups in different regions who feel they're also being attacked, nothing is going on. So isn't it possible that maybe someone might say, look, we can't keep containing this or allowing ourselves just become helpless in this kind of case? Is it possible this may be linked to one of those scenarios?
Certainly. And I say certainly because when you look at the theoretical framework for looking at some of these things, there are so many theories. But the one I favor most is the demand and supply theory. When you begin to have incessant use of arms against one group, and one group feels weak, what they will seek to do is to begin to acquire their own arms to counter or at least resist or protect themselves. You see, that's why the concept of proliferation of small arms becomes very important, because it really, really, really impinges directly on national security and lowers the threshold.
Speaking about different groups and then how they are responding to different things, which raises concern about insecurity in the country. Let me ask you this about the recent clashes. The army have given their perspective, IPOB given their perspective. You have been a former deputy force commander of the Oil and Security Task Force Polo Shield, so you've been in some of these things for a while. What do you think went on about that attack or that incident?
Well, I read it in the media, like everyone did. But what I know is that somehow in the background, there is a military operation exercise that is running. Military exercises are normal things that happen within an environment. And when military exercises are going on, maneuvers will take place. Sometimes they are simulated, but sometimes they tend to also reflect realistic issues.
Sorry to jump in. Does that mean that they can be simulated in people's compounds when you say realistic issues?
Oh, well, I do not know the extent of penetration of this team into someone's compound. I don't think that should happen in entering private property. But what I'm saying is that maneuvering on the roads, road junctions, key points.
Don't you think that would be intimidating the people then?
No, normally, if there is no tension, if there is no suspicion, if there is no animosities, if there is proper communication, there is no military exercise that will take place without public sensitization.
But 3 of these 4 does exist. There's tension, there's suspicion, and then this happened.
So I think that, well, I think reading from the newspapers also, all the groups involved have tried to give an account of what happened. And in a situation where there is rising tension, how you handle operations like this are quite intricate. Why I say that is that sometimes you are going on patrol, for instance, and something goes wrong. You go into ambush. Some group ambushes you. What are you going to do? It is left for the patrol commander to use his initiative and his training to deal with the situation. So sometimes it could border on provocation. A normal exercise is running, for instance, and some people feel, okay, let's even test the wheel.
Have we ever had a military exercise within that area before?
There have always been military exercises.
Within that particular area before?
Of course. Last year there was a military exercise, I think, AK-1. This was a follow-up. AK, that's a Python dance. You know, that's the second version, a follow-up. Sometimes it could be an internal security exercise. And don't forget that the Constitution also empowers the armed forces through the President and National Assembly, you know, to also perform some functions.
So for you, this was not going after the IPOB leader?
It might not have been aimed directly at it. But then, because of the tense situation around that area, the suspicion that, oh, maybe this maneuver is meant to actually do this, could have triggered the clash. But you see, this is where there's need for groups to be cautious, because this country is greater than one single group or individual. And for us to fall back to the ideals of the Constitution, which really emphasizes more on unity, peace, indivisibility, and all this, I think we need to tread with caution, because it's like somebody trying to stop a moving train by standing in the track, whereas there are many ways you can get the train to stop, for instance, rather than going to literally commit suicide.
As General Anchor, retired Navy Commodore Abimbola Ayuba,
literally going to commit suicide.
He's a warfare specialist and UN certified training advisor on global peacekeeping. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, back in a moment. Don't go away.